This conference will now be recorded.
So today let us start off with one more new topic and important one, exception handling. So today and tomorrow we discuss on this topic, exception handling. Now, before we go to this exception handling, let us try to understand the different types of errors. So we are having the different types of errors like compile time or syntax errors. Compile time or syntax errors. So the examples are like semicolon missing, curly brace missing, you are calling a method without defining. All the red color lines what you see in the Eclipse, they are all compile time errors. So who is going to take care of these errors? Compiler. So based on the message given by compiler, we are going to rectify it. Then the next type of error is logical or semantic errors. Means the output what you are expecting is wrong. The logic of your program is wrong. Like example, we want to find sum of 1 to 10. In order to find the sum of 1 to 10, we take a variable sum equal to 0. We take a for loop for int n equal to 1, n less than or equal to n less than 10, n plus plus. And we'll write here sum equal to sum plus n. Sum equal to sum plus n. Now, here, once the for loop is completed, when you print the value of sum, what is the value of sum we get here from the code? Sum of 1 to 10 is 55. But from this piece of code, what is the result we get? 45. But expected is what here? Expected is 55. So why we get 45? Because we set n less than 10. So 10 is not included over here. 10 is not included. So it's going to find sum of 1 to 9 only. So what you are expecting, if you are not getting, those errors we call logical errors. Then who should take care of these errors? Programmer only, because whatever the code we write, that result only we get. So programmer has to take care of these errors. Just a second. The next type of errors is runtime errors. Runtime errors, or even we call them as exceptions. Even we call them as what here? Exceptions. That means when you write the code, once you write the code to see the result, we need to run the program. We need to run the program. So during that runtime, if you are getting errors, we call them as runtime errors or exceptions. Let me elaborate more on this. How to define an exception is, an exception is a runtime error which occurs during program execution. Which occurs during what? During program execution and terminates the program abnormally. The application will be terminated. Let us understand what is this exception, what is this abnormal termination. Let us understand using an example program here. So let me go with the program name exception demo. Open Eclipse. To store exception related programs, let me create a new package. Right click on project and say new package. Let me go with the name exceptions. Now in this package, create a new class exception demo with main method inside. Now in this program, in main method, let us go with a message begin of program, begin of program. Then now a new concept here, we'll write here int n1 equal to args of 0, int n2 equal to args of 1. Now, so what is this args? Is the string array argument what we have passed to this main method. So what is the use of this string array args? Let us understand now. The use of string array args is used to store command line arguments. Is used for what? To store command line arguments. Command line arguments are one way of giving input to the program when we run the application. That is when you are running the application. So when you are running at your command prompt or terminal, we use the Java command and we go with the name of the class exception demo and space, and you can give the value separated by space. So these two values only we call command line arguments, and these two values will come and store into this args array. Now in this 10 and 5 are command line arguments, and these arguments will come and store where args of 0 contains a value 10, args of 1 contains a value 5 now. So this 10 and 5 will come and store into this args array. So args of 0 contains what value 10, args of 1 contains what value 5. Now this args is what type of array? String array, right? This args is what type of array? String array. Means args of 0 which holds a value 10, it's what type? String type. Can we assign a string value into integer? No. That's the reason we are getting this error. Now, how to rectify this error? Which concept we have to use to rectify this error?
Typecasting.
Not typecasting. Yesterday only we discussed it, last one. Parsing. What concept we use? Parsing. Since we want to convert into primitive integer, we have to use the proper class integer dot parsing. Args of 0. Similarly, here also integer dot parsing args of 1. Right? Now the value of n1 is primitive integer 10, n2 is primitive integer 5. Now we'll write here int result equal to n1 by n2. We are dividing first number by second number. Then we'll display the value of result. Result equal to the value of result. Then go with the message end of program. End of program. Now in Eclipse, how to pass command line arguments? How to pass is right click on your program and say run as. Here you can find the option run configurations. Then choose this arguments tab, and before that we have to choose the program which you want to run. So what is the program we want to run? Exception demo. Now come to arguments tab and provide the value separated by space. So this 10 and 5 only we call command line arguments. Now click on run button. Now see the result. We are getting see begin of program, result is 2, and end of program. Right? This args is mainly for what purpose? To store the command line arguments, and since these arguments of type string, we are converting into primitive integer using wrapper class. Now let us run the code again. See the class which you want to run. Come to arguments tab and let us provide the value 10 and 0. 10 and 0. So when you are dividing a number by 0, in Java it is an exception, means a runtime error. And see the output what we are getting. It's going with the message begin of program, and it's going with the message exception in thread main java.land.arithmetic exception divided by 0. And in which line number you are getting? See, line number 7. You are getting in line number 7. So in Java it won't allow you to divide a number by 7. Right? Now, is it a good programming? Terminating the application, is it a good programming? See, once we got exception, the application got terminated and it's not going with the remaining piece of code. So it's not going with the message end of program. So this only we call abnormal termination. So is this abnormal termination good? No, it's not at all good programming. So we should, if an exception occurs, we should inform the user what went wrong and we should continue with the remaining piece of code. So that concept only we call exception handling. See, exception handling is used to avoid the abnormal termination of application. It is used for what? To avoid the abnormal termination of application and makes the program robust. Robust means strong. Then how to go with this exception handling is we make use of 5 keywords. 5 keywords in exception handling. They are try, catch, finally, throw, and throws. Try, catch, finally, throw, and throws. Now, in this try, catch, finally, we call them as blocks. Throw and throws, we call them as classes. Now, let us initially understand about try and catch block. This is the main thing of exception handling, try and catch block. The syntax of try and catch block is, we use the keyword try. In between try block, we go with the set of statements which we feel exception may occur. If you are getting an exception in try block, in any statement if you are getting exception, the Java runtime will throw the exception. And what are the exceptions the Java runtime is throwing? We are going to catch it using catch block. It's a keyword. Exception. Using exception, we'll store it into this reference E. So exception is a predefined class. And what are the exception Java runtime is throwing? We are going to catch it into this E reference. Then in this catch block, we handle the exception. So handle the exception means we'll just provide the message to the user what went wrong. Right? Now, let me document these words. If an exception occurs in try block, the Java runtime will throw an exception will throw an exception which is caught by catch block, and handles the exception. Very, very important point. And the remaining part of try block will not get executed. The remaining part of try block will not get executed. Means, for example, in statement 2, if you are getting exception, the control will jump from statement 2 to catch block, and it handles the exception and continues down with the remaining piece of code, but the remaining part of try block will not get executed. It won't come back to try block again. That's meaning of this. And the remaining part of try block will not get executed. This point is very important. Clear up to here? Any questions? No. Let us apply try and catch block for this code. So in which statement we are getting exception? This line. So keep this line of code in try block. Now, if this statement executes properly, then only we want to display the result, right? So displaying result is dependent on above statement. So keep this display result also in try block. Now we write here catch block and we'll say exception. It's a predefined class, and we'll go with the message divide by 0 not allowed. We'll go with the message. We'll inform the user divide by 0 not allowed. Now, run this piece of code now. Right click and say run as, run configurations, see the class which you want to run, come to arguments tab, and if I go with the value 10 and 5, and when you click on run, so we are getting the output as begin of program, result is 2, and end of program. Now if you run the code again, so go with the second value as 0, then we can see begin of program, see the message divided by 0 not allowed, and it's continue with remaining piece of code, end of program. So whenever an exception occurs, providing the message to the user what went wrong and continue with remaining piece of code. This concept only we call exception handling. And I want to display this error message in red color. Then instead of out, we have to use ERR. So when we use ERR, so when we run the code, the message will come in red color. Clear this code? Any questions, anyone? No. Now let us move to the next concept here. This is the major one, that is exception hierarchy. So what is the topmost class in Java hierarchy? Anyone remember yesterday's class? The topmost class in Java hierarchy?
Object class.
Very good. Yeah. Object class is the topmost class in Java hierarchy. Then in this exception hierarchy, the topmost class is throwable. In the exception hierarchy, the topmost class is throwable. And throwable is a subclass of object. This throwable goes with the two subclasses. Throwable goes with two subclasses. One is exception and one more is error. Exception and error. Error is something like which we cannot handle. Once it occurs, it has to get terminated only. Once it occurs, it has to terminate. Like example, JVM running out of memory. So when JVM is only running out of memory, as a programmer, what we can do? Nothing. It has to get terminated only. So we are not worried about error part. As a programmer, we are worried about exception. Under exception, it goes with the subclasses. Under exception, it goes with the subclasses. This is only part of the diagram. So it goes with the subclasses like runtime exception. All are classes in this diagram. Runtime exception, IO exception, interrupted exception, SQL exception, and user-defined exceptions. This is a concept. This is not a class, except user-defined exceptions. Remaining all are classes here. The user-defined exceptions we'll discuss in tomorrow's class. Under this runtime exception, it goes with the subclasses like. So I'm just mentioning the classes which we can discuss in this exception handling topic, like array index. Sorry, before that, arithmetic exception, array index, out of bounds exception, string index, out of bounds exception, negative array size exception, the number format exception, and null pointer exception. Right? So I've just listed out some subclasses which we can understand in this exception handling topic. As the days goes on, we'll be learning some more runtime exceptions based on the topic. Like when we go to multi-threading, we learn some exceptions. When we go to collections, we learn some exceptions. When we go to IO package, we learn some exceptions. Now, here we are having one very important concept, very important intro question also, that is categories of exceptions. Categories of exceptions. We are in two categories. They are checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. Checked and unchecked. Let us initially understand about unchecked. So if you take the previous example program, if you go with the previous example program, when we got error during runtime, right? We got error during runtime. So when we have given second number as 0, we got error. Right? Now, so does the compiler know about this error? No. The compiler will not have idea about this error because it depends on the data given by user during runtime. That's the reason for compiler it is categorized as unchecked. So which are unchecked exceptions is all runtime exceptions. All runtime exceptions like arithmetic exception, number format exception, etc. are unchecked exceptions. Then, which are checked exceptions? Checked exceptions are like other than runtime exceptions. Other than runtime exceptions like IO exception, SQL exception, etc. are checked exceptions. Right? So in this one, this runtime exceptions comes under which category? Unchecked exceptions. Other than runtime, remaining all comes under the category checked exceptions. Checked exceptions are simple. Just we have to follow a syntax rule. Checked exceptions are what? Just a syntax rule which we have to follow. So it is taken care by compiler only. So compiler will give the error message. Just we have to take care of that syntax rule. So it's very simple in Eclipse, simple click operation in Eclipse. Now let us understand more on these checked exceptions. So what are checked exceptions is, other than runtime exceptions, like IO exception, SQL exception, and even user defined exceptions, etc. are checked exceptions. Now let us understand more on these checked exceptions using a program, checked exception demo. So right click on exceptions package and say new class checked exception demo with main method. Now in this main method, let us just invoke a method here, int n equal to system.in.read. System.out.println is used to display the messages or value of variables on screen. System.in.read is used to read a value from keyboard. But when we are invoking this read method, see, we are getting error here. We are getting what? Error. So why we are getting error? Let us understand. That's the main thing of checked exceptions. So to understand this error, we need to open the document, means API. The library we need to open. So here we have to search for input stream in Java. Don't worry what is input stream now. And open this Oracle Help Center, open this input stream. Just only one small observation we need to do. So we're having this class input stream. If you scroll down, see, you can see, observe this part. See, after read method, you can see throws some exception, that is IO exception here. So this throws keyword is important for us. So whenever we are invoking a method, that is read method in our case, and if the method is throwing some exception according to Java API, according to Java library, if the method is throwing some exception, we call this type of errors as checked exceptions. We call them as checked. Now, see, like that you can see similar way, you can find so many methods. See here, skip also throws IO exception. Available also throws IO exception. Close also throws IO exception. Like that, we are having so many methods. See, reset also throws IO exception. Like that, we are having so many methods in Java which throws some exception. So what are the exception it may be? We are not worried. We are worried about only this throws keyword. Then what we have to do is, see the compiler message, just to keep mouse pointer on this error and see its surrounding and unhandled exception of type IO exception, and it's asking to surround with the try catch. So just we have to call the method in between try and catch block. That's it. So whenever we call a method which is throwing some exception according to Java API, the syntax rule is we have to call this method in between try and catch block. So following this syntax rule is only checked exception. Then one more way of doing is, we are writing int n equal to system.in.read See, one more suggestion it's giving. See, just keep mouse pointer on this error, and you can see one more option, add throws declaration. Just if you click here, it's going to add throws keyword and the exception what it is throwing. So whenever you invoke a method which is throwing some exception, then either you have to call this method in between try and catch block or specify throws the exception what it is throwing. So this type of handling only we call checked exception. Simple a syntax rule. So more on this checked exception we'll understand when we come to user defined exceptions, and when we come to multi-threading, concept of checked exception is simple click operation. Let me document these words. So what is the point? If a method throws an exception, then this method need to be caught. This method need to be caught means try and catch block or declare to be thrown or declare to be thrown means throws keyword. That's it. So just this is the main point of checked exceptions. Clear all of you? Any questions? Right? Then in tomorrow's class, I will continue with the remaining part of exception handling where we discuss this runtime exceptions. I'm going to discuss this runtime exceptions. Then even we'll see how to go with the try with multiple catch blocks. Then finally block and user defined exceptions. So tomorrow we complete the remaining part of exception handling.